Well, greetings everyone. I want to take a few minutes to show you how you can quickly and easily create those attractive scripture graphics that you frequently see shared on social media sites. These are doable in a number of different apps. You can create them easily using graphic apps on your computer as well. But most of us, if we were want to create scripture graphics, most of us already have an app that can do that quite handily for us. It is the YouVersion Bible app, and I want to show you how you can use the Bible app to quickly create those scripture graphics. To get started, we're going to open up our Bible app here, and I'm not going to give you an extensive tutorial on how to use the YouVersion Bible app right now. I will cover a few basics as they relate to creating the scripture graphics, but I'm going to trust that you already know how to use the Bible app a little bit, how to choose the translation and language that you want to read the Bible in, etc. Okay, when we open this up, we are in the home screen here for the YouVersion Bible app. I'm going to click in the right-hand side here to get out, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Galatians 5:1 again, just so we see it in normal read mode. Here I can read the Bible now. I'm scrolling through. I've decided I want to share Galatians 5:1. Now, to select a verse in the Bible app, simply tap anywhere on that verse and it will be underlined with a dotted line. And it brings up, when you do that, it brings up a menu down there at the bottom. All of those colors, they allow you to highlight the text. We don't want to do that, but just above those colors, you'll see a little menu bar with lots of different options up there. The second one from the left says image. That is what we are going to use. Now, before we do that, I want to show you that we can, in fact, select multiple verses. I just keep tapping on verses that I want to include. I can even include non-concurrent verses, so if I want to skip down a couple verses, I can tap on another verse down there, and you see we've got a variety of verses selected here. Whatever verses I have selected, these are the ones that YouVersion thinks I want to put in my graphic. So I'm going to deselect some of these. I just want to do Galatians 5:1 in this example. For freedom, Christ has set us free. So that is now selected. I'm going to tap on the word image there in the menu bar, and it is going to prompt me for the image to use. They provide us with a host of wonderful options here to use as background images. Some of these are textures, some of them are colors, some of them are actual images, usually scenic shots, mountains and oceans and beaches, flowers, etc. Things that generally tend to work really well showing off the text. Most of them include a good amount of white space, so the text really stands out well. But there are some other options I have here as well. The first one there in the upper left, you notice that white box with an icon there. If I tap on that, it's going to let me choose from one of my own images, from my own gallery. Or I also have an option here of Google Photos. That's that first option I have there, because I've linked my tablet to my Google Photos account. So I could tap on either one of those to browse my own images and choose one of those. I don't want to do that right now. I want to choose one of the YouVersion provided ones. So I'm going to tap anywhere outside of that box to get rid of it. And there are three other options there that I want to mention to you. This may vary depending on what verse you've selected, but YouVersion is providing some pre-made scripture graphics that I can choose from. So let's take a look at that first one there. And I could choose to use that or not. If I want to use it, I click on the check mark. If I don't, I tap anywhere outside of that to escape, or I just click on the X there. That will also allow me to escape. I want to create my own graphic. So we're going to scroll through the list here. And when you're choosing a background image to use for your scripture graphic, choose an image that supports the text in some way. In this case, we're using a verse about freedom. So I want to find an image that expresses freedom in some way. I'm going to go down to the very bottom here. I saw one that I liked. It's a man holding his arms up high. And to me, that really speaks the word freedom. So I want to use this image. So I'm going to tap on the check mark to say, yes, let's use that image. And what happens is that YouVersion lays the text over top of this image for me. Once that's done, I can tap and move that text around anywhere I want on this image. Simply tap and hold, and then you can move that text around. And you'll notice there are left and right bars around my text. Those will disappear after a few seconds. I tap again to bring them up again. Those are your margins. Now, I discovered a bug here. I want to show you how you can change the margins, but there's a bug here in the when using the app in landscape mode. Most of the time you'll be using it in portrait mode, so it's not an issue, and they'll probably get this fixed. But in landscape mode, they make it a little bit hard to adjust the margins here. So usually if I tap on those bars and move in or out, it's going to adjust those margins. I'm going to try to show you how that works here real quickly. I'm going to switch over to portrait mode, and there we go. My tablet just recognized that we're in portrait mode now. So I'm going to recenter this text, and I'm going to just tap on one of those margin bars. I'm going to move that in or out, and you can see that we can actually change that. So depending on the composition of your image, you may want to make it really narrow like that. Or in our case, we've got all that nice white space up above. I want to keep it pretty wide like that. But I want you to see that you can do that. So I'm going to, now that I've done that, I'm going to put this back in portrait mode. And I'm going to have to reposition my text a little bit. Just click and drag. And there we go. Now, I can do some other things to edit my text here. Down below the image, you'll see that there is a size slider, and I can change. That's going to control the size of the text. I like something very big and bold because you want the text to be legible. And on a mobile device, images are still fairly small, so the bigger that text, the easier it's going to be to read. So I like a bigger font here. I also like one that's going to be really nice to read. Down below that size slider, I have lots of text options or font options to choose from. There's Railway Thin, Heuristica, Nor'Wester. There's a whole host of these we can choose from. Now, there's more than actually we can see. If I tap and hold anywhere in that list of fonts, I can slide back and forth here to see all of my different font options that YouVersion gives me here. I happen to like the one called Nor'Wester, so I'm going to select that. It's nice and bold, and I like that. So that's the font I'm going to use. Now, just above that, off to the right, you'll see another little icon there. If I tap on that, that's going to allow me to change my line height and my letter spacing. So I can tap, I can make my lines really narrow, or I could make them really wide. So you have some tools here to kind of fine-tune what your text looks like. Same thing with the letter spacing. I could make it really wide, or I can make it very tight. And of course, if I get it too tight, it's going to kind of cram the text together. So we're going to leave it right there. Now, down there at the bottom line of icons, you see two big T and a little t and a green bar. That means that right now we're working with the text editing tool. I want to show you one other thing we can do with the text here before we move on to the other options. If I double tap anywhere inside my text, it's going to bring up my keyboard, and we're going to have a little cursor in there. I can actually edit the text that is in this box now. So I could actually change this text altogether. I could say, let's say for example, I only want to include the first part of that verse. So I can come down here to where it has the word slavery and just backspace, and I'm going to delete some of this text. I just want to include the first part where it says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free." And I usually like to include some space between my verse and the verse reference, so I'm going to do that as well. Okay, and once you like what you've done, tap anywhere outside of that text box, anywhere in the image, and it will get rid of your keyboard. And there's our new edited text. Now you could actually put in a quotation here instead of a scripture passage. So any number of things that you can do. So you could actually use this YouVersion Bible app to create any kind of scripture text or text, visual text that you want. Okay, we like what we have here. Let's take a look at some of the other options that we have now. So down at that very bottom bar, we're going to tap on that little icon that looks like a raindrop. This is our color selection tool, so we can change the color of our text. And we have black and white as two easy options, those two little rectangles there. Right now, there's a checkbox on the white box. That means that our text is white. If I tap on black, it will change the text to black. So I can swap back and forth between those to see how they look. Now let's say I wanted to choose a different color. I would like yellow here. So I'm going to tap over on the right there. You see there's a color palette. If you tap on that, it brings up a color selection tool. I can move this around, or I can just tap somewhere. And I like that color yellow that I've just selected, so I'm going to leave it at that. I tap on the X to go back a step. Now the other thing that we can do here is we can change the opacity of our text. So whether or not we can see through the text, or how much the background image shines through the text. So I'm going to adjust that just so you can see what it does there. I tend to like my text very bold, so I'm going to leave it up at 100%, but you can adjust the opacity level if you want. We can also, down at the bottom on our tool selection area there, we can click on the next option there. That's our alignment tool, and we can left align our text, we can right align our text, or we can leave it centered. I like it centered in this particular image. I think that symmetry works well with the image that we've chosen. And the last tool that we have there in the lower right corner is our blur tool. What this does is allows us to blur the background image. And the reason you may want to do this is to help that text really stand out. Now, the image that we have has good white space, but if we were to, for example, move our text down here, that might make it a little bit tougher to read. So if I then blurred my image, you see the text stands out a little bit more. So depending on the background image that you choose, you may or may not want to blur that out a little bit. That's up to you. Again, you have lots of controls over here, but I wanted you to see that you have that option. In this case, I like mine I like it in sharp focus, so I'm going to leave it there. But those are the options that you have for your text. Now, if we were all done, I would click on the Save option there in the upper right-hand corner. But I want to show you one other thing that you can do that I think is really powerful in YouVersion. So I'm going to exit this by tapping on Edit Image, and it's going to take me back to the Bible. Now, let's say I wanted to share this in Russian. I could change the language of my Bible app right now. Right now I'm in English, and I'm using the ESV version. If I tap on that, it's going to bring up my language and version selection tool. Again, I'm going to assume you already know how to use some of these things. One of the options here is CARS, that's Central Asian Russian Scriptures. That's the translation I want to use. And when I do that, it changes the Bible to Central Asian Russian. And that's what I want. I want to select that first verse there in Russian. So I tap on that one time. You see the dotted line under there. I click on Image. And I'm going to scroll down and find our image with the man with his arms held up high again. And YouVersion is, after I click Accept, YouVersion is going to put the text in there. I can move it back around. Again, I like the Nor'wester version. Now, you notice when I did that, the text seems a little weird down there. That CARS is the C-A-R-S there in the verse reference. That's in bold for some reason. That's just a little bug. I'm not sure what's going on there. Usually you're not going to run into that, but depending on the font that you choose, you may run into some issues. So anyway, pick out which font you like there, and again, you can edit this. I'm going to put a little blank line there between the verse and the verse reference. Okay, and make any other adjustments I want. If I want to change this back to yellow, I can go down here to my color selection and say yellow. Okay, and now it's in yellow again. So make whatever changes you want. Now we're ready to save this image. I tap on Save, and once I do that, that is saved to my YouVersion image library. You have to have a YouVersion account set up to do that. It's a free account. So if you use the YouVersion Bible app but have not yet created an account, I encourage you to do that. This is now saved to my library, so I can come back to this anytime, today, next week, a year from now, and that image is going to be there in my library to choose from, and I can share it. But it also gives me the option to share this right now. If I tap on share, it is going to bring up a list of share options. The options that you will see here will vary depending on what apps you have installed on your device. But generally, you're going to see your social media apps. You're going to see messaging, Bluetooth. You can copy this to the clipboard, Facebook, etc. So lots of different options we have here. Let's say, for example, I want to, let's say I want to send this over Twitter. I can tap on Twitter, or say that I want to send it as a tweet, and it's going to, because I haven't done this before, I'm going to say allow there, and it's going to give me both the text here. This is my tweet. I can edit this, of course, to get rid of that verse reference. This is now just in Twitter, so I'm using my Twitter app. I don't want to save this. I don't want to share this on Twitter right now. I'm going to click on X to exit out. Save draft. No, delete it. And now we're back to our option here. Let me just show you real quickly. If I go back to exit, click on Edit Image to edit it out, exit out of here. I'm going to deselect my verse here. If I tap on the Home button, you're going to see now that I actually have. Let me tap on that again. It should be showing me my options. Again, in landscape mode, for some reason, there seems to be some bugs right now. I'm going to go back to ESV. Let's see if this shows up. But I want you to see that you actually have access to this image now if you've saved it. There it is. There's our image now saved in our YouVersion library so that we can share it anytime we want. But very quick and easy, use the YouVersion Bible app to create your own scripture graphics. Presenting your verses visually will be sure to attract a bit more attention, get more people looking at them and engaging with whatever it is that you're posting. Thanks a lot for listening. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I'll do my best to address those. God bless.